Lyndsay. This is Anu from Egoscue. Is that right?
Nailed
Okay.
it.
And I'm just going to let him introduce himself and what we're doing here.
Cool. So we do postural therapy. We teach corrective exercise, primarily to relieve pain, but also to help athletes perform better, recover faster, avoid injuries, stuff like that. So everything is about teaching people skills that they can replicate for themselves rather than like a treatment. So the idea is that what you're going to get is a lasting set of things that you can do as a long-term sustainable practice, as opposed to just kind of getting treated short-term. So we're going to take a look at your posture, go through some functional screening, and then teach you some exercises to correct whatever postural imbalances we find.
Awesome. Let's do this.
So this is a 3D scanner, so not only is it taking photos, but it's actually getting a 3D image of you.
Okay.
So it's bouncing laser beams, lasers off the wall.
Whoa.
So I'm going to have you do is stand back towards the wall, but not on the wall. Perfect. What I'm doing, this computer is connected wirelessly, so I can actually get Lyndsay's posture right there. And then Lyndsay, I want you to just stand as natural as you can, and maybe even just shake it out a little bit, because everybody gives me their best G.I. Joe Barbie pose. And then we're going to take 4 photos of you, front, back, and both sides. Okay, ready? So there's our front one. I'm going to have you turn and face towards the window side and take your left side. Great. And another one so I can see your back, please, facing the grid. And one more so I can see your right side. Perfect. So one of the things you can see is already it's got some postural deviations just entered from the lasers, right? Sorry, my awesome powers. Lasers. But then what I'm going to do is palpate your hips to see a layer deeper of kind of what's going on with the bones.
Okay.
And what's pretty cool, and maybe you know some of this stuff, is that, well, that's what I'll do. I hope these aren't too cold.
Yeah.
I'm going to palpate your hips if that's okay. So what we're feeling for is the height of your hips. You can see there's a noticeable difference where the left is higher, okay? If you have some success today, that will be much closer to level by the time we're done.
Okay.
As I was saying to you when we started talking today, muscles move the bones. And we talked about this. So, you know, great chiropractor or massage therapist, whatever, they can adjust that too. The missing link, not to knock them because that stuff's great, but it's not lasting because muscle memory is not there, right? So when you create muscle memory to reprogram the body to sit more level, that can be a lasting thing. And then you go into all your workouts with a much more level platform. And you can learn to do this for yourself. All it is you're feeling for this crest of the hips. Right?
Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah.
There's an elevation on that left hip.
Yeah.
You see that? It's pretty undeniable, right? So
I feel that in my shoulder.
Yeah.
I'm always feeling some asymmetries in my shoulders and the way that I hold them, and it drives me kind of crazy, but I haven't felt that in my hips.
Let's fix that thing. Yeah. So if you think about it just architecturally, right? If you're in a building 11 floors like this, and that 5th or 6th floor is unlevel,
right.
Of course there's going to be something else going on. Right?
Yeah, and I feel this in my handstand. When I pop up in my handstand, I'm always fighting a little bit of hip asymmetry, and I've thought it's from my kick in, but maybe it's just the way that I'm holding it.
Could be.
Interesting.
Let's figure it out.
Handstands. Okay. All right.
So this is a spine. This should be attached, but we've had this for a while. So that's our iliac crest, and that's where we just put our hands to figure out what the height was. The joke is that's the cheapest MRI you could ever get, because you can figure this out yourself. It's very simple. You literally just feel for wherever your hips end, and I like to make a really nice horizontal line because it's very hard to see if I just do this, right? So like that, and then I can see what the height disparity, if there is one, may be. Right?
Well,
so the other things we're going to do, checking your hips, face me again, is your ASIS. And what we're feeling for is if there's rotation, and you can look down and see that there's just a little bit here, right? It's not definitely as noticeable as this was. There's a little. So rotation would be, so I just felt these little knobs in the front of her hips. These are a little harder to find than this for somebody who's not trained, but really you're just running your fingers over until you find those prominent points. And so for Lyndsay, what we saw was the left one's a little forward. How you would see that on yourself is you would look down as you put your hands on those crests. I'm going to put in this hip elevation. And basically when we have green, red, and blue, the green's the most mild stuff, the red's the most noticeable stuff, and blue's in between. We have actually artificial intelligence on this that will say, oh, her left hip's elevated, her left hip is rotated forward, it caught that. So that's what we saw on your hips. I'm going to turn you sideways now. I'm just going to feel for that ASIS again. Now this is the PSIS, which is just posterior and anterior. And what we'd like to see is about a 3 to 5 degree difference, lower in the front than the back. I'm sure you know this. And that's pretty close to where we want it to be. Sometimes people will be, maybe want to exaggerate this, really anterior or really posterior, right? Too flat or too tilted. I'd say you're close to where we want you. Let's have you turn the other way, please.
Okay.
So we're going to test the same thing because we want to see if they're the same or not. And there you can see the asymmetry, where you're actually much more anteriorly tilted on this side than on the other side. The other stuff, in terms of your pictures, and you saw this, but there's way too much forward bow, right? And simply put, if your weight is pitched forward to that gravity line, you're working harder, right? I'm sure you can lift more weight than this, but this is just what's handy. Is if you hold that straight up and feel the weight.
Forward? Oh, this way. Yeah.
And then hold it straight out and feel the weight.
Right.
Heavier, right?
Right.
But it's the same weight.
Yeah.
So what happened?
You're holding it out against gravity.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The lever's longer, right? So when the bones are holding the weight of all the body, it's less hard to do.
It's the same thing in your handstand, which is why, if you can get all the way vertical in that beautiful line, you have gravity that's kind of compressing you down.
Exactly.
You don't have to work so hard.
Like astronauts have to go into those recompression chambers after being in space because their bodies need that compression. But when we're like this,
hey, don't make fun of me.
Not you.
There you go.
Most everybody is a little bit forward of gravity when we first get them in.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just squishing us all day. You know.
Well, and I know my knee hyperextension is just really.
Well, and if you
I'm
think
fighting
about
it all the time.
If you think about it, your hips sit forward. So think about what that would do to the joints below it, right? If your hips just sit back this way, all of a sudden your knees look
boom.
Right?
That's
fixed.
amazing.
Have a nice
wow.
day.
Thanks.
Yeah. Makes sense, right?
Yeah.
So often people are chasing a symptom that's really not generated by that location. It's actually generated by these other relationships, and you already connected this. Like my handstand doesn't feel that symmetrical, but the hips aren't that symmetrical. So how could it be? So then, if we just look at you facing me straight forward, I just want to look at your kneecap position.
Oh yeah.
Here's my cheesy posture joke about this. If the eyes are the windows to the soul, the kneecaps are the windows to the pelvis.
That's right.
Because they tell us where everything is located, right? So I would agree with you. There's just a little bit of what I would call internal rotation or medial rotation of your femur. Can you do a squat for us, and we can just see where you go?
You can see my matching scabs
Yeah.
from trying to impress 10-year-olds in the pool.
Excellent. Nice. What I'm watching for is like how your femur tracks. And what I see, at least initially, is that the right one holds a little more stable, left one does a little more of a in, out, in, out. Yeah, it's that.
Like this?
Yeah. How's flexibility?
It sucks.
Okay.
Yeah.
Let's have you turn sideways and bend towards touching your toes.
Okay.
Well, if that sucks, the other thing we look for is to see if the elevation stays, which it did on this side. And so you can come on.
Okay.
We're always looking for dysfunctions versus compensations. So compensation is what the body has to do because there's a deeper dysfunction, right? I'm in a cast, so I gotta put a lot more weight on the one leg because this leg's in a cast, something like that.
Right.
Dysfunction is the deeper built-in, this is really kind of sticky and it's like that, you know, even after we do a movement, it stays there. So what we expect in terms of change with posture is the compensations go away pretty quick. The dysfunctions usually take a lot longer. So that's what I was kind of looking for, is it seems like it's kind of deep-seated, that even when you bend forward, even when you move, it's still there. You know cats and dogs from yoga?
Yeah.
I want to have you do that. I just want to see how your spine's moving.
Okay.
And if there's anything that actually hurts, please tell me. Don't be a superhero or anything.
Nothing hurts.
So all I'm looking for is how symmetrically your spine moves. It's pretty good. The other thing I want to ask you to do is when you come up into this arch, the dog, or the cow, the other way, is retract your shoulder blades. Cool. So they move. I'm always looking for do they or don't they.
Right.
Kind of, you know.
The shoulder blades?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
There's a little upper back rounding.
Yeah.
And that stuff will contribute to shoulder issues. Some people, and yours was pretty good, but some people are like, they can't even do it. If you stand normally, where's weight in your 2 feet? Are you heavier on the right or the left foot?
Right now, I'm on my right foot.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because with your weight pitched forward, one might assume that you'd be more on your toes, but.
Well, I think it's that hyperextension of the knee, right? That's where I'm holding all of my weights back here. Yeah. I know, it's terrible.
Let's just look at you from behind real quick, because your Achilles will tell me lots about how your ankles sit.
Here, I'll step forward.
Achilles in a perfect world are a very vertical line. Instead of a perfectly vertical line, you're getting just a little bit of a diagonal outward that way. So no major pain things.
No.
Okay. Typically, that's the next conversation is they're in here for 87 things going wrong. And we're just trying to get them out of pain. So that we have the luxury of just really working on the posture, which is cool.
Cool. Do we want to try a handstand against the
For sure.
wall here?
Yeah, for sure. We're gonna not put my handstand in there.
Okay, I am not a master handstander. I used to do gymnastics, but right. And then I'll do maybe one from the side. This is always my problem. Do one more, see if I can get it there. Yeah. And I'm a little cold, right? So I usually have to warm up a little bit, but I bet you anything afterwards it'll be better.
Yeah, I'm just curious what we have to compare it to, right? This is called Anatomy Trains. You've seen this,
Well,
right?
I love Anatomy Trains. It's my
amazing,
favorite
right?
book.
And basically the concept we look at, for instance, the superficial back line, is that while you may have, let's say, a tight lower back, this stuff's all connected, right? So it may be your hamstrings, it may be your neck, something else in the chain could be interfering with the release of that. And so you're talking about kind of your middle back being an issue, but your head's forward, right? So just if I took that one little snippet, if my head is here, I just pulled this whole line tighter than it would be if I just changed my shoulder position, which could change the interaction to your back and so forth, right? We're gonna just get you walking to and from, and we're gonna kind of test some of this stuff in motion, that we were looking at static. So you're just gonna walk to and from.
Okay. Like my left leg feels like, if I were to compare, it feels like this one's like filled with cement versus this one is lighter.
Okay.
Yeah.
So then what we're gonna have you do is go hands behind head, pinch your shoulder blades.
How you feel?
Yeah, just a good pinch of your scaps. And then have a walk like that and tell me what's different if you notice.
Again, good segue.
Okay.
You're in my head here. The E sizes that you're going to get.
So we're looking to see, do the hips
you'll get a
elevate
menu.
and sway as much as they did before?
And you can
Do
also
you feel
get,
that
printed
concrete
copies.
feeling on your left side like you did? Or
They're
did
gonna
that
have
change at all?
Depending on the E size, they'll have sets and repetitions and or time associated.
Maybe less so.
Those
Little
are
less.
guidelines.
Yeah, I'm really aware of that
Hard, steadfast.
rotation in my hip.
Does it feel like
Left
more
over,
or
right?
less?
The menu
It feels
will
the
tell you
same. I
lanes
think
that
I'm like
have
pretty
5 minutes.
aware of it. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, it still does.
Menu.
So, diagnostically speaking, what I'm looking for is to see how much change is created in your body when your scaps are in a better position, and does that rotation go away, things like that, right? Now you felt less disparity between the two sides, so that says that getting yourself in a better position in your upper body may shift the balance that way,
Sure.
right? But the rotation didn't really go away, which says to me the genesis of it is probably more in the hips than coming from the shoulder. Back to this compensations dysfunctions thing, right? That sideways kind of feeling, that heavier on one side, that may be compensation. The dysfunction, however, probably more in the hips. Make sense?
Yep.
Question, does anything not make sense?
No, I think this is making a lot of sense.
Okay.
Yeah. Do we have any questions, Ashton?
We're not big on wasting people's time. So if it doesn't make the change we want it to, even though that protocol might have worked for a lot of other people that changed their hip asymmetry, if it doesn't change yours, why do it?
Right.
Right? Try something else.
Right.
So, and that's why this is sort of a living, breathing method. It changes depending on what the person's need may be. And whatever his asymmetries or mine may be, they may not be addressed the same way as yours would.
Cool.
Cool?
Yeah.
All right.